Hello, friend. Welcome to Mr. Rewatch. This is your Mr. Robot recap podcast brought to you by a stand-up comedian and a depressive hacker. I'm Erin, and I'm joined today by the Mr. Rewatch team, but also by a very special guest. So we've got Devlin, we've got producer Dave, and who else is with us?
My name is Martin Wallström.
And of course, he'll be famous to our audience as the actor who has played Tyrell Wellick. So this is our Tyrell episode. And we're so excited to have you here with us today. Actually, all the way from, you were saying you've just returned to Sweden.
Exactly, yeah. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So let me start off with a question. We were kind of reflecting on your character's story, and I wonder if you could tell our audience, how do you think your character has evolved over the first 3 seasons of the show?
Wow. Well, the funny thing is that we sort of see Tyrell just briefly as like the climbing corporate dude who has been successful in everything he's done, right about until the moment, like episode 3 in season 1. Things just start to slide for him, and it's from there it's been hell for him for almost 3 seasons. So yeah, we've only seen him in a very, very tight spot for a long time.
Now I'm going to ask Devlin to ask you the next question.
Yeah, the first thing I'd like to say is thank you very much for joining us to record today. I'm really glad to have you here. The question that I have for you, if you don't mind, is I'm curious what it was about the role of Tyrell in Mr. Robot that made you interested in taking part.
Well, the first thing I read, I was only sent the scene where Tyrell rehearses his speech in the mirror. That's also episode 3, season 1. And it was pretty quick to see that it was an interesting character and the way it was written, and what he was doing. So I was really like, that was a big part of, I felt, well, this character is interesting, and it's sort of resembled into something that I wanted to do. And I guess where I was at by that point was, I've mostly played like the nice guy or the boy next door. So since I self-taped for this one, I had never met Sam, and the only thing he saw was the self-tape. So, which was great, I think, because he could then just see like, okay, this is how he portrays the character, and not me as a person. So that was the first thing I read, and I was hooked.
That's very interesting. I remember that scene was it did a very good job of establishing Tyrell as a character. When you said you were sending in self-recordings there, did you mean that you just had to slap yourself in the face rehearsing for a while?
Yeah, it's exactly. That was the only thing on the page. Just slap yourself in the face. But no, it was the scene, and I remember I did it like we filmed it from behind into a mirror, so you could see, like, because it was good for me to have that thing do the mirror at the same time I did the scene, I remember. And also you talked about how you introduce characters. I think with Sam and the writers, I often talk to friends and other people about how it's a very, the way you establish, let's say, Elliot, he busts a pedophile, and that kind of character, you'll walk with him through anything. And Tyrell, he has his speech slapping himself in the face, and then he goes out under the bridge and pays that homeless guy $300 to beat him up. And it's so nice to have that kind of establishment, because after that, it's like everybody sort of knew that Tyrell was crazy, and so that made everything so much easier. So it's like the way it's written, it also helps so much.
Dave, you also have a question?
Yeah, so I'm not going to really focus on Tyrell as a character, but I'm going to focus on Martin, the actor. what was the worst role you've ever played? Either in that the role was written very poorly or that you performed it very poorly.
I have one. I'm not going to mention the name, but I'm not. More or less, I never blame like the writing or it was executed poorly by directing or photography. I played this mentally retarded, if that even is a politically correct word, caretaker. In this crime series, and I decided I thought the character should have some sort of dialect or accent. It's in Swedish, and I knew from the beginning when the director, and he's a great director. I worked with him after that. When he came up to me, I was like, I hear some sort of accent. You sure you want to use that? And I was like, yes, this is the right thing. And I had this fake mustache, and then I felt like, wow, I'm really like crossing a line here. I'm really putting it out there. And when I see that result afterwards, is like, when you miss an open goal, it's not even, I don't miss an open goal. I'm missing an open goal on the wrong side of the field. That's how far off it is. So yeah, that's one of them. And to be honest, I've had a couple where I don't feel like it wasn't good. It was. I don't think any of those has anything to do with script directing. It's just sometimes you do a bad job, and that's the truth. I mean, that's you go up and down. But I say that's my number one, and I totally, it's on me.
So I think that's interesting. Now, obviously, you've been, a professional actor for, how many years have you been acting now?
I did my first film when I was 14, so that's 20, it's almost 21 years now.
Well, it's quite a while.
Yeah.
Wow. I wanted to ask you, do you have any other projects that are coming up that your fans should be looking for?
Yeah, we actually... a film I did called Parallel, which is a sci-fi made by this really cool Mexican director called Isaac Esban. People should check out his latest two movies, The Incident and The Similars. Really cool movies. We did a sci-fi called Parallel, and it actually premiered last Tuesday on a festival in Brussels. So that'll come out this year, and also we had a screening now in LA of a film called Ashes in the Snow, which is this World War II drama about the Soviet Union deporting Lithuania, and so many Lithuanians. So I think it's premiering this fall. And where I play this Russian guy, and I only speak Russian, which is very interesting. So those two are something people could check out. And I do know that there's this series I did actually a couple of years ago called The 100 Code with Michael Nyquist, who unfortunately passed away, and Dominic Monaghan. It's a Swedish-American series. I think it's going to be on US TV this spring or something. So the two first I mentioned are two new projects that people can look out for.
That's excellent. Well, I think for, certainly being on Mr. Robot, that's given you a lot of exposure, especially to, I would assume, American fans. And so who will be interested to see all of these other projects that you're working on?
Yeah, hopefully.
Devlin, over to you.
Yeah, I have a question that's actually more related to Mr. Robot as opposed to your acting career. I was just wondering, you noted earlier that over these 3 seasons, Tyrell has really been through a lot. And I know that you can't really predict what's going to go on in the future because nobody can with Mr. Robot. But how do you think that Tyrell feels right now, and what do you think he wants to do?
Wow. I'm always so careful when I talk about those things because, as you say, one person knows what's going to happen. Sam Esmail, and he's very he rarely talks to anyone before he has anything written down or anything like, well, this is the way the season's going to go, which I think is good. Because I don't know anything about it. So usually I don't talk about what I want him to, like what would Tyrell do or what would I want him to do, because it's, I don't want to jinx it. But, hopefully I hope he's in a good place. I hope he's happy. And that he can sort of review his life and sit down and think about things that he might want to do differently, or not. Just keep on going until the end. But I do wish him like some love. Someone should give him some love.
I think we all agree with that. Thank you.
Well, yeah, after the year that he's had, I mean, really, the universe could let up on this guy a little bit. A question that I have. Sorry, this is Dave's turn. I'm jumping ahead of myself.
Yeah, that's all right, Aaron. I was just wondering, Aaron and I both do stand-up comedy here in Ontario, and I was wondering, do you watch a lot of stand-up in Sweden? And is there any Swedish comics that we over here in the West or in the Anglosphere may not know about?
I do. I have some stand-up comedy comedian friends, and I'm so impressed by just the fact that you walk up on a stage with the unspoken promise of you are going to be funny. You guys are going to laugh. Because if you don't fulfill that, it's a failure. If I do a drama and it's not good, it's just boring. So I have huge respect, and I've actually talked to some of my friends just as an experiment to see if they could write something and I should perform that, because I doubt that I would have the ability to be funny in a way that people would genuinely laugh. So yeah, it's something I'm very interested in. I have this friend, his name is Aaron Flam. He's a very dark comedian in his sort of humor. It's very rough, and that's what I like about it. So yeah, I have great respect for stand-up comedians, because it just looks so hard.
It's funny. I'm saying it looks hardest, of course, when we're doing badly. So
yeah,
I mean, and it's interesting because I think one of the differences between comedy and if I think about an acting project is you're working with a team in the projects that you do, and so I think Mr. Robot seems to have a very strong, cohesive sort of a team.
Yeah.
If that's fair.
Absolutely.
I wonder if you could talk about a scene that was really fun for you to shoot, or a moment on set that you had with that team that was really great.
A scene that was really fun. Let me see. Last season, season 3, there were so many great things for me to do, and it sort of felt like Sam put this big chunk of very, very nice meat on the table, saying, okay, it's like prime Kobe beef, whatever you want to call it. So what do you want to do with it? I just think it was so many things. A fun scene, a really fun scene. I mean, I had a lot of scenes with Bobby and Christian, and I enjoy that a lot. Let me just think. Yeah, you know what? I'll take one from, I think it was season 1. It's a scene where Tyrell and Joanna, we go to check on the baby. And we did that scene. I don't know if it was cut out, but we're at the doctor's, and they have, they talk to each other about there's some sort of, Joanna wants it to happen a certain date. And then Sam asked us to do the scene without any lines. And just to be honest, I have the worst poker face you can imagine. I start to laugh so easily. And we did this scene we were supposed to do the same sort of scenery and everything. And Stephanie, who plays my wife, and the actors who play the doctor, they were superb. They just did it. But I just started laughing all the time. I couldn't look them in the eyes. And it was so disappointing. Just Sam, sort of after 2-3 takes, it was like, okay, let's move on. That was a lot of fun. With just failing. So that wasn't my best card.
Nice. And so now we've got just a couple more questions for you. Then we're going to do a special segment, and then we'll be wrapped up. But Devlin, last question from you.
So I have a question that kind of relates to something that happens in the third season, and actually it might relate to some of the scenes that you were talking about with Bobby earlier. I'm wondering what they call Swedish fish in Sweden.
Oh yeah, you know what? I heard your episode, and I thought about it. It's a good question because you're right. We don't call it Swedish fish. We only call it, I guess, fish.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where people, when they come back from the U.S., they're like, they call that Swedish fish. It's so stupid. It's not even like it's a big thing here. It's not like, oh, that is what everybody gets when they are having their birthday. We get Swedish fish. It's just, we have a lot of that kind of candy, but and it's just one out of 30 different fish species. No, but 30 different types of candy. So, yeah, I mean, just congratulations to whoever came up with that name and made it a big thing.
That's fantastic.
So follow up. If Swedish fish is not a popular candy in Sweden, what is a popular candy? What's your favorite Swedish candy?
Oh, my favorite. We have something called djungelvrål, and that's like what you would translate to jungle roar. So it's this licorice, it's like salty licorice. It's got a screaming monkey on the outside of it, and that's what I like the most. I love them. So jungle roar, yeah.
I'd try that.
Excellent.
I'll keep my eyes peeled.
Yeah, Dave, last question from you.
Martin, are you a hockey fan?
I am. I'm more of a soccer or a football fan, but I do follow hockey, and I'm very, like, when I'm in the US, it's always fun because a lot of people there are very interested in hockey, and to talk about the Swedish hockey players in the NHL. Or are you a hockey fan?
Well, yeah, I was going to ask you how you felt about Joe Sakic being the MVP of the 2001 Stanley Cup playoffs and not Peter Forsberg.
Oh, wow. I couldn't say that I followed that one that much that I can differentiate Forsberg and Sakic, but wasn't he sort of like he quit a bit earlier than Peter Forsberg, right?
Yeah, just a little bit.
When did he retire?
He retired, I think, 2 years before Forsberg did.
Okay, and Forsberg, I think he had a couple of good years left, but it was something with his foot, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, well, Forsberg, he is forever, like, if you remember the Olympics 1994 when we beat, oh, that's interesting. You guys are in Canada, right?
Yeah. That's a fun Olympics.
Yeah. Yeah. And that final penalty, I think it was Corey Hirsch, who was the goalie.
Yeah,
I don't know if you everybody if you put yeah. Well, it was a big thing. So you could put that clip up on your Facebook page when Forsberg does his famous penalty. And we have to remember that 1994, Peter Forsberg was 20 something.
Yeah, he was still a rookie with the Quebec Nordique.
Yeah, exactly. So he did that kind of penalty, and everybody has to look it up. Peter Forsberg, 1994 Olympic final penalty. That kind of balls. Amazing. So, yeah.
You know what's funny? For someone who said you weren't really a fan, I find your knowledge encyclopedic.
Yeah, this is way over my head.
Well, I think it's more of like I do have some knowledge about stuff that happened like a long time ago, and I sort of try to follow the Swedes in the NHL, but I'm not games that often. But I'm super proud of all like the Swedes. And I was in Vancouver when we did Parallel. Unfortunately, I never got to see a game, but I'd love to see the Sedin brothers and so yeah, I like it. I do.
That's great. Well, thank you.
Excellent. So we just have about 2 minutes left, if that's all right.
Sure.
So we wanted to do this is a lightning round. So in this series, I'm going to give you two things, and I'm asking you to tell me what your favorite one is. So the first one is Windows or Linux.
Windows or what?
Or Linux.
Oh, well, I just blew my hacking knowledge there. I'm
a Windows guy too. It's all right.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I actually do iOS, but yeah, Windows.
Okay.
Yeah.
Giraffes or seagulls?
Seagulls.
Red or purple?
Red.
Socialism or capitalism?
Socialism.
You can pass. It's okay. And my last one, suits or hoodies?
Suits.
Suits? Yeah, me too.
Because because then I sort of make up for the socialism thing. Makes it more even.
So listen, we are so very glad that you joined us on the podcast today. Thank you very much for your time. Thanks from all of us at Mr. Rewatch.
I'm Martin Wallström, and bonsoir, listeners.